Well, we don't even know the word PVC. We convey to the client how much money they will spend on the entire project so that the client doesn't make changes according to their taste, as they might ruin something in the project. And all the pines on his plot fell and broke half of the window. You need to get closer to understand that it is very small, but it is very big.
Yes, we are not very tall, about 180, so add up how many of us there are. Guys, we are starting a new video format on our channel. This involves visiting famous architects, touring their projects, discussing aluminum structures with them, their stories, the development of architects, and so on. Today we visited the famous architect Alexandra Fedorova, who has many awards and impressive, cool projects. Good afternoon, Alexander. Make sure to follow Alexandra Fedorov's Instagram. She has quite a few followers and posts very interesting stories and various posts which I personally have watched. Don't forget to follow my Instagram as well. So if you like this format, please give us a thumbs up. Don't forget to support us, and we will continue this topic. Alexandra Fedorova. You have questions for me. I will be in the role of Yuri Dud. Well, let's start from the very beginning. When did you decide to become an architect? Why did you choose this profession?
Well, perhaps I became an architect even before I was born, because my parents are architects, and I have always been surrounded by this environment. And to some extent, my fate was predetermined. I never had other choices. I understood what it means to be an architect.
So both your parents, your dad and mom, are architects, right? Yes.
And even grandmothers and grandfathers, but...
So you are an architect in the 7th generation, so to speak.
Well, not in the 7th, of course, but...
How did you start your journey as an architect? Perhaps with your education or your first experience?
Well, initially, from the age of 5, my mother, as a teacher at an architectural school, instilled in me some basics of learning, propositions, and some spatial expansions of a child's consciousness. Then there was a specialized school for those who wanted to enter March E. After that, it was March E. Well, my education continued while I was working. I got a job at the bureau, so I understood what an architect actually does.
And what was your first experience working as an architect? What were the bureaus? If it's not a secret, please tell us.
Worked at Mosprom 4 and concurrently at the workshop of Borisovich Borodkov.
In what year did you open your own studio? What motivated you to do this?
Well, some personal growth, I think. The desire to develop somewhere around 5 years. After I started working at the bureau, came the realization, probably a happy coincidence.
In what year did you open?
It's
been quite a while. Yes, you have a large team now. Tell us a few words about your team.
Yes, over the past year we have significantly grown, almost doubling in size. Now we have about 25 people working with us. Wow, yes, but that's still not enough for us because we have more and more projects and we want to execute them with quality. So,
how many projects are currently in progress?
About 50.
Is it mainly large buildings that you work on, or perhaps country houses, or is it interior design?
But mainly, these are country villas with interiors, meaning everything from start to finish. There are also large architectural projects.
And not only in Russia, right? Projects?
Yes, we design abroad. In recent years, we have been receiving letters from all over the world saying that they like our architecture.
Can you tell us about a project that was particularly significant for you? Perhaps the most interesting one that evoked the strongest emotions?
Everyone is dear in their own way, but the ones that are most memorable are both the loved ones and those who realized their projects with a certain joy, who achieved what they designed, where everyone was satisfied, no one argued, and we were able to photograph this object. Well, here is one of our latest villas in Taganrog. It turned out to be very un-Russian.
Large square?
In terms of appearance, the area is average, about 800 square meters, but it is very high quality both in architecture and execution. It's a dream project.
Do you, accordingly, only develop the project, or do you also directly accompany it during construction, interacting with all the contractors and coordinating all the materials?
We have a full cycle bureau. We do everything, so that the client comes, pays the money, and then moves in. That is, of course, we do not directly carry out the construction ourselves. We find people who do that, but we organize the process, lay it out, and select.
Guys, we are at the site of Alexandra. We came to look at the glazing options she is using. So, we will walk around the site now, and she will tell us everything and show us.
In general, at this site, and at many of our others, we use several glazing systems for large sliding panels. We use skyframe because always several different needs in the house. There is, for example, just a tall stained glass window, but it is not sliding. It doesn't make sense to do it in skyframe. It would be very expensive. We use simpler systems with precise fittings, such as Shukov. If this is a large, tall stained glass window that needs to be opened to enter or exit, then skyframe is essential here. We can take a look at how the slim system looks.
And what is the visible width here? 35, right? And this is skyframe.
This is skyframe. Here it is stationary.
It turns out next to the sliding ones, right? And so that they look the same.
First of all, this is one facade. Secondly, this is the main hall. It's the first thing you see when you enter the house. Therefore, here we...
By the way, Shukov also has a 35mm system, right? It's that thin.
Well, it's already the same price as a scalpel.
Well, yes. Guys, this is a sliding system, but this is all the sliding from floor to ceiling, right? And these lower profiles, as I understand, will all be hidden under. There will be a full glass unit from floor to ceiling. And what is the height here?
Here we have 360, 3600, right? Yes, those stained glass windows are about 9 meters tall.
Notice how great it is here that all the profiles are very thin, and there is indeed such a large sliding system. Wow, it's really cool. Everything is panoramic with thin profiles. I have to say, I honestly haven't encountered skyframe before. This is the first time I'm seeing them in person, and I really like them. They are truly cool systems. So this is like a groove, right, where the profile moves? Does it just stay like that? Or do they have some kind of grid there?
Basically, it is cleaned in the same way as the floor is tidied up. Yes. Since it is located inside the skyframe, unlike other systems where the groove is on the outside and gets filled with leaves, needles, and snow, you have to clean it.
Well, yes, it turns out to be inside the room, so the trash from the street doesn't get in, right? I got it. Cool, cool. And here is the automation. It's built in, right? So it's inside, basically like with Shukov. Yes, I understand. Oh, well, there they are. Those are visible for now, but they will be covered later. Cool. So that makes 4 panels with 2 sliding here, and they slide open like this, right? And this opening is revealed accordingly. Awesome, awesome. And if I ask you about prices, is that some kind of secret information? Is there a price per square meter, or do you have a percentage of the total estimate? How is the pricing for your service formed?
Well, since our list of services is quite extensive. Firstly, it depends on the area, and it depends on what exactly we are doing. Sometimes the client has their own representatives who take on part of the work. But overall, everything is structured and calculated clearly based on the area, the tasks of our function, and the project cost. Sometimes it's a percentage, and sometimes it's a fixed price, because some clients want to know that I will pay the architect this amount, and that's it. And no matter whether I choose a sofa for 5,000 or for 50, his fee will not change.
It's interesting that you have so many awards. If it's not too much trouble, could you tell me what these awards are, what festivals they are from, what they are awarded for, and which projects, or how is it properly referred to? I'm just not very familiar with architectural topics. How significant are these awards within the market?
There are competitions that are held annually, semi-annually, or every few years, both Russian and foreign, in which designers and architects participate.
From all over the world, right?
If this is an international competition, then from all over the world. If it is a nationwide competition, then accordingly against.
So, what awards do you have exactly?
Well, quite a lot. Every year we participate in 3 to 10 competitions, maybe even more. We often win.
And what does it give? It provides some recognition, yes, specifically that you, as an architect, have the loyalty of clients, apparently, right?
Well, actually, there used to be cash prizes. There could have been a prize fund. I don't know.
And now they don't give money anymore.
Now they mainly give beautiful sculptures, sometimes a vacuum cleaner.
Yes, but why are you bothering me about too money?
Well, those times are gone, yes. Well, I remember there was a time when,
Are there any participation fees, or is there some kind of fund?
well, in foreign competitions, most of them require a fee to participate. There are some outrageous amounts of money involved, but nevertheless, you still pay around $200, $300. They are all free for us. It's more for status, for some kind of self-check, for our level. Yes, clients also come. See? Oh, we have many beautiful figurines like this.
Oh yeah,
You did great.
of course trust increases immediately. The architects relax right away and start placing orders. Wow, what a big swimming pool. Just like in the Olympic. Look, here is the pool, yes. And around the pool, there is panoramic glazing. It's really cool. Accordingly, a person will swim there and look at nature, at the trees. And here, you can't see the trees right now, but when this protective film is not there, of course. Well, yes, of course. Everything is still in protective film. And this all accordingly also slides open, right? Some of them slide open while others do not. These will spread apart. And this will also move into the wall because it leads to the terrace. So in this wall we have the finish, and this window slides away. Take a look at that window. See, this is called a second light. It's really cool. It spans 2 floors. I'm totally enjoying this kind of glazing, of course. Where do the windows go, right? They just fly by, of course. That's really cool. And here is the door, right? And what height will it be? It's quite large too. More than approximately 3 meters, right? Yes. Will it be glass or one with a panel? It will be solid. Well, because it's a door. Do you use these panels, the Adecco ones, or not Adecco, the aluminum ones that are stuck on the door? Well, basically different materials are glued to the doors, or glass and metal, but in our case it will be black porcelain stoneware. Just glue the porcelain stoneware directly onto the door. Right. Awesome. This is indeed such a unique solution. Wow, it's so big. Here we have very high ceilings. There are probably more than 4, right? Or somewhere around that. Yes, you can see it, yes. The height is 420, and look at these thin profiles. It looks so panoramic and cool. Here will be... And what kind of room will this be? This is an office. A working office, meaning the homeowner will be able to work and enjoy the view, right? Awesome. The guys allowed us to move it. Oh, cool. This is pleated, right? Yes. Is it manual or automatic? It is both manual and automatic. So on and so forth. She will calmly stand there, and then I will be able to look for it. Ah, so it's the trailer and it's following. Can it not follow? I mean, can it be detached somehow, right? He is a member of Romania, so it's charging. Well, it's fine, normal. So, charging. Are the bags single chamber or double chamber? Double. And what is the approximate weight of one panel? About 600 kilograms, right? And what is the maximum weight that the system allows? 1,200 kilograms for the sliding one. Because Shuka has similar systems there, yes, PDs. There are 500, I think, at most, yes, kilograms. Now I will probably become a bit of an expert on glazing and will ask more questions related to the theme of my channel. Tell me, what type of glazing do you prefer? PVC, mini, wood? Where do you apply each? And what experience do you have?
Well, we don't even know that word when it comes to PVC. We forgot it a long time ago. We certainly don't use it in residential buildings, and in general, no one installs plastic windows in premium class properties. There are 2 options here, either aluminum or wood. Depending on the task, the style, and the budget, we choose one type or the other. If it is wood, then it is usually something more massive, perhaps a chalet or a more classic larger apartment. If it is aluminum, there are also 2 types. It can be more massive and thick like Schuko, or thin and unobtrusive like Swiss Skyframe. Well, since we work in modern architecture, we mainly, of course, lean towards the thin, unobtrusive
Well, I mean, when the double glazed unit goes straight into the ground, roughly speaking, yes, the profiles are not visible, and it all becomes a glass wall that stretches out. Yes, this is definitely the coolest thing available on the market. Probably that's why you have premium segments, where people choose high-quality aluminum constructions for themselves. Tell me, regarding aluminum structures in your projects, how thoroughly do you work through them? Do you provide any data on heat transfer resistance formulas for the glazing units? Or describe specific systems detailing the aluminum components? Or is it all conditional, like a square here, a stained glass window there, and the client decides what will be there?
Well, since we are only involved in the development of the concept, we have an outsourced designer who handles all the projects with the conditions, and there are engineers who calculate, for example, the heating considering specific windows. They contact the window supplier through us, obtain all the necessary information from them, and then incorporate this into their project accordingly. On our part, we need to know at a basic level in order to explain to the client how TAI or another system differs, to distinguish between what is better and what is worse, what is warmer and what is colder, and to be able to explain it to a person in such a way that they can make a decision, because sometimes the architect doesn't understand, and it also seems to him that all systems are roughly the same. One is somehow twice as expensive, while another is cheaper. Naturally, the client always wants to choose the cheaper option if they do not see a difference. The architect's task is to understand and be able to explain the differences. We know this.
It's great that clients ask you about this. Does it ever happen that you completed a project and the client communicates with the contractors themselves, without coordinating the glazing solution with you, for example? He approves some windows, doors, and stained glass in his own way, and something that might even violate the architecture of the house. And can he do this at his discretion, or do you limit it in some way, perhaps in the contract or through some methods?
Undoubtedly, that is why we have our project support service, because no matter what the client orders to their taste, there is a high probability that they will spoil something in the project. Naturally, a manager from some window company can make a division according to their taste, but this will not match the facade cladding and will significantly lower its quality. So we either do everything together, or we say, okay, if you want to build on your own, let's do it without us. We are no longer responsible for the outcome. Basically, we don't waste our time.
Do you have all your projects accompanied, or are there some where you just created the architectural design and the client is developing the working documentation with someone else, working with contractors on their own, building something themselves, while you just provided a nice picture?
Well, we don't take on such projects if it's clear from the start that we won't be providing support. There are situations where we complete a project and the client takes years to think about it. We don't really control that. Maybe they have already built it. But as a rule, we take on projects from start to finish because otherwise it doesn't make sense to waste time.
What is the approximate area of the glass relative to the facade?
Oh, well, it depends. It can be in relation to the area of the facade or in relation to the area of the house.
No, regarding the facade? Yes. How much does the glazing take?
That's a good question. Well, I don't know. About the area.
About 40% probably, right? Closer to half, it seems to me.
I think it will still be less. You can make a completely glass house, or you can make it 50-50. But it will still look like a glass house because there are parts of the house where the glass is not visible.
Trees, and the glazing, it's on that side. How did they deliver the units there? With some big crane?
Here they didn't take the whole thing, but there was a crane.
Guys, let's take a look at the main stained glass of the main entrance. It currently doesn't have a door, but we will specifically look at the stained glass itself to see what large double glazed units are there. So that means...
We need to get closer to understand that we are very small, while he is very big.
Yes, you see him from a distance.
200.
We are not very tall, about 180. So add up how many of us there are. 9,200. It's really cool. And as the contractor who is glazing this said, you can't make such a stand out of aluminum for these 9,200. I'm telling you this as someone who knows a little about it. So, as he said, it is made of steel from the Janssen profile. Shuka. This is stainless steel, a painted unit. The wall thickness is 2 centimeters. The steel profile is 2 centimeters. Therefore, it stands like this and withstands all wind loads, and when the door closes, it is rigid and will not shake. It is very important to take into account all wind loads, including the dynamic loads from closing the door. Well, it's a pity that the door is not here, but maybe we will come back someday and take a look at it.
Consider that it exists.
And here, if I understand correctly, there will be ceramic granite on the sides.
No, here there will be natural concrete.
Natural concrete, and will there be something else here? Some kind of...
The door will indeed be finished with black ceramic granite.
Black ceramic granite? I just thought that the same thing that is on the sides will be on the door, right?
No, but they do it this way too.
And what about the access control system on the door? Was that not considered, like, are there buttons or fingerprints?
Everything will be, but we cannot disclose that to you.
No, we don't need to be told the code for the lock. It's just interesting.
Well, yes, we often do it by fingerprint.
And what about all those cameras? Yes, can we set up an intercom like that?
Well, there are definitely enough cameras here.
I understand. And this is a double glazed unit. It's single chamber, right? Well, of course it's huge. That's why it's single chamber. So what are their heights?
9200 ash colored in half.
I think it is 6.3, and it turns out that there is no horizontal beam inside. And here is where the seam of the double glazed unit is. It is simply 2 units connected to each other, sealed with structural sealant. There will be a joint of about 20 millimeters, and when everything is set, it will be almost impossible to tell that there is any separation. But I understood that they wanted to make a solid unit for the full height. However, such double glazed units in Russia can only be made up to 6 meters. 9-meter units are custom made from Europe, and accordingly, the price increases immediately. So we decided not to overthink it and just make a structural joint. But I think there's nothing wrong with that. It looks very good even with such a huge 6-meter unit. And what we approached, we were looking at those grooves, right, where they move, that all sorts of debris gets stuck there. Alexandra says that there is some kind of grid with the skyframe, yes, but it has some drawbacks or disadvantages. Don't you know, all the rails are mainly located inside, as they say. The leaf moves smoothly to it, the rails, did you open it, people walk through it. There are leaves, snow, and mud, it still gets clogged. In the frame of the video, there is an old car that is quite large. I just saw on some system these little pedals. It moves and they rise up like that. Are there these pedals here or not? Well, they can be like supplemented, something like that. Oh, is it only in some other ones, right? I understand. What's the deal, really? You walk in clean shoes, go out to the terrace, and is the speed adjustable too? Or is it always the same? Can we open this now, the one that is currently installed? And it can stop at any position, right? Just a little open, it stops, yes, yes. And there are some safety sensors in case if something gets in the way, it stops, right? Got it. And if something is removed, it stops, right? Got it, got it. There was an experience when the architect designed cool panoramic glazing on the first floor of a completely glass house around the perimeter. And accordingly, there were many sliding systems. The client was offered a solution in aluminum for the glazing, with everything being panoramic, from floor to ceiling, using double glazed units. There are 2 types of sliding systems. There are those that, as you say, have a thin profile, where you can't see where the sliding part is. Everything goes panoramic, and it's unclear where the sliding section is. And there are places where there are really massive profiles, frames, and the sashes are like that. I explained to the client that, look, here are the panoramic solutions, and this won't look very nice. It will be obvious that it's panoramic, but then there's some kind of sliding. But when he always advocated for panoramic solutions, and the architect also pushed for panoramic designs, the budget for aluminum glazing came out to 23 million, which of course left him a bit shocked. Then he cut everything, optimized it, and to put it bluntly, made do with what he had, resulting in a final glazing cost of about 9 to 10 million. Unfortunately, the architect could do nothing about this and could not convince the clients that they needed to pay extra. How do you deal with this when clients are just shocked by the budget for glazing, or they didn't account for it, didn't calculate it, or don't understand why it costs so much? How do you explain to them that they need to buy exactly this and so on?
Well, first of all, we address this before we start the project. The very first thing we communicate to the client is how much they will spend in total on the entire project, including windows, whether they are these or those, cheaper or more expensive. When we start designing, we discuss what we will use for the glazing. This could be a profile like this, which will be approximately for your area, but if we understand that the house is 1,000 square meters, then the windows will cost, for example, 300,000 euros if it's Schuko, and about 700,000 if it's Skyframe. We show the difference, explain what the difference is, and he estimates it for himself. So the overall budget is suitable, the windows there cost 700,000. Well, okay, I'm mentally prepared. Go ahead and draw. After we draw, if they have already reached 800 or 600, it won't be as traumatic for him. Basically, he is ready for this.
Listen, this is a really cool approach. I think if all architects worked this way, it would be easier for contractors when they receive a specific technical assignment and the client understands what has been designed, already incorporating some solutions in advance. Because in reality, probably about 80% of architects, in my opinion, do it differently. Well, or maybe I don't know. I just encounter in practice that they mainly approach glazing as if they just drew some little blue squares, and what will actually be there is unclear. And how? Tell me, do you explain to the client the difference between Schuko and Skyframe? How do you do that? Do you have samples or photos? Or how do you explain the difference? Are you really knowledgeable about these small nuances? Aluminum.
Well, first of all, if we are talking about such radically different systems in terms of price and appearance, it is clearly visible to the naked eye. We have photographs from completed projects using both systems, and there are accordingly showrooms where you can go see and interact with the products. It becomes more complicated when the client starts to delve into the nuances of their peers. Let's say there are 3 of the most expensive systems, one is still a bit cheaper and the other is a bit more expensive. How do we figure that out? We need to get involved in all the details ourselves. Sometimes we ask the managers, again those who are already selling their specific windows, to explain.
Do you communicate and try to work with the system manufacturers or with the contractors who specifically install the windows, of course with the end clients? So, representatives from Schuko don't come to you. They don't try to teach anything there like welding with samples, catalogs, or any such things. There isn't, right?
Well, we are basically already scientists who are well educated in that area. If something new comes up, our suppliers tell us about it. I believe that the most important thing is the final point, the one who installs it. Because yes, the Schuko profile can be purchased by anyone, including us. But how we install it is the question.
In the plan, I face the problem which architects draw dimensional sizes of the structure that are impossible to manufacture. For example, the double-glazed units are 3.5 by 5 meters, although the format of the glass from which the double-glazed unit is cut is 3 by 6, 3 by 200, 3 by 6, 3, 200, 3 by 6, 3, 200. Accordingly, I also regularly encounter this and explain what it means not to do it. We start dividing things additionally there. You already understand the technical specifics in advance, right? The shape of the glass, what types of sashes can be made, which ones can open and which cannot.
Well, when you have already completed more than one project and have worked on each one, you know that a narrow, tall door without a tie will not open because it has all the sail, it will collapse. When you design a house, you initially incorporate a specific glazing with defined dimensions, so that later you only need to calculate it, enjoy the process, and place the order.
For example, if we take the option where you recommend a trusted contractor to the client, or the client chooses themselves, in what cases should they listen to recommendations? Or how often do they find someone in the market on their own? Or perhaps the client has had previous experience working with someone, or maybe a neighbor or friend recommended someone. What is the approximate balance in this?
But, as a rule, all roads lead to roughly the same places, and all the significant players in the market are well known.
There are not many companies that can make such premium things.
Yes, so when the client chooses someone from their suppliers, not the ones we usually work with, either we know that they, for example, did something wrong, or on the contrary, we know that they are also great, and we can say, well, yes, let's work with them if you feel more comfortable. It is important for us to have a certain level of discipline and responsibility within the company, so we have realized that it is comfortable to work with those who share these values. Therefore, we can recommend to the client that when he needs to adjust the sash, he won't have to wait 3 months. People respond quickly. If he chooses his own and they then struggle, that is his responsibility. We can no longer accommodate anyone here, nor can we somehow understand them.
Listen, I am actually surprised because you are telling me things that do not happen 90% of the time in the market where I operate. There are always some problems. Architects get involved in the glazing, clients make their own decisions, and in the end, it results in complete chaos. Everything is so well thought out and organized here. I am honestly surprised, as this is the first time in my life that I am encountering something like this. One more question. What about the contractors for the glazing? Did you have any problems with them? Just wondering, what are some situations, possibly problematic, how did you resolve them?
You always work with one. We always have some interesting stories, right?
Is it specifically about the glazing? Or was something unsuitable or broken? The deadlines are probably being missed, as usual.
Well, the saddest part, probably, is when we glazed a large house with sky frame. An extremely expensive order. The client had been preparing for this mentally for so long. That's it. All the windows have been installed. Then, it was probably about 3 years ago, a hurricane passed through Moscow, and all the pines on his property fell and broke half of those newly installed skyframe windows. It was definitely a complete failure. It's unclear who is to blame because it was a natural disaster. Oh, that was terrible.
But the house is not insured, right? Is there something...
To be honest, I don't remember who sorted all this out, but it seems to me that it was on the client's shoulders. Well, there have been cases when, for example, people order and say, "It's so expensive for you in Moscow, these windows are everywhere." We found some great guys from Ivanovo and they are coming to install all of this shock. We arrive at the site and there is just gum stuck everywhere. Everything is somehow put together with some planks and stakes driven in. I mean, one screw and all of this will collapse.
Well, yes, that happens.
This is how people save 1 million rubles and then they have to just throw it all away and order again.
Regarding the timelines, I often encounter problems when clients don't think about glazing at all. They pour the monolith, everything is done, there are contractors, facade specialists, something like that. Then when it comes to the windows, they don't understand that aluminum windows take about 4 to 5 months, and maybe the project lasts up to 6 months before implementation. What do you mean? It was like, I thought everyone would measure here, and they would bring it to me in a week and install it. Do you somehow warn that project planning needs to start in advance because materials take a long time? The delivery time is also not quick, special equipment is needed, and so on. How does this happen? Do you inform the client when they need to purchase the windows?
Well, first of all, let's start with the fact that we have, in principle, a design schedule, and then there is a production schedule. Clients generally want to invest in a specific construction timeline, such as moving in 2 years. A detailed schedule is created for this purpose. This schedule includes the time for the installation of window structures, so that there is enough time to complete the facade afterwards. Well, accordingly, we know the delivery time for various systems and when the site will be ready. In general, the project is developed in parallel with the structural project. Therefore, by the time the house begins construction, we already have all the details ready for orders. We just need the measurements. As soon as the box is made, we take measurements and approximately 3 months later, we install it.
So it turns out that you involve the glazing contractor at the design stage, right?
Definitely, of course.
Everything has already been estimated according to the project dimensions, and you are designing the working documentation. At the same time, the contractor is designing their own projects for the windows there. To be honest, I haven't encountered anything like that either.
The window project is part of the house project.
So, it turns out that this is in your contract with the client, or is this project documentation for the windows, which is attached to your overall project documentation? This is your area of responsibility, meaning you check all the details, right? Including those of the contractor.
We check the nodes, but whether it's in our contract or a separate contract depends on how the client has chosen the scheme in principle, whether it's general design or if he concludes his own contract with each contractor. It doesn't matter, but if we are providing support, we definitely check all the nodes that the contractors send us for compliance with our project. Well, the engineers were sneaking away regarding compliance, the sticks didn't interfere, and so on.
Probably the last question. I won't tire you. Glass, specifically types of glass. There are many manufacturers, Guardian, Pilkington, AGC, various multifunctional options, a bunch of different shades. Do you know all of this? Do you apply it? Perhaps you have some samples. What experience do you have? What glass do you prefer?
Since we mainly prefer Swiss glazing, like Skyframe, they have their own high-quality double-glazed units straight from Switzerland. They are so clean and smooth, and efficient and durable. Visually, of course, we strive for them to be transparent, without any tinting or alterations. And if we use Russian double-glazed units, it is important for us that the contractor monitors each double-glazed unit, as there is a lot of defective glass, and some of the panes may be warped or even explode. Periodically, the manufacturer is not that important to us in principle. What matters to us is that it is of high quality and visually appealing.
There is regular glass, and there is some kind of translucent glass. Of course, we need translucency, maximum transparency. It's unclear to walk and bump your head.
It's just that when you have a greenish tint inside the mirrors, then all the people, their reflections are also greenish.
Oh, wow. Awesome. This is really awesome. This is just the exit from the pool, and right here is a terrace like this, and a little forest. Amazing. Modern architecture. Modern houses are like this. Cool. Well, I don't know if it's visible on camera, right? It's super thin, isn't it? The profiles are great. 35 millimeters. Have you ever seen anything like this yourself? Do you like it? Cool, right? Well, it's pretty expensive, of course. Not everyone can afford it. It's definitely a premium high-end segment. Accordingly, if you want to build such a serious house, you also need to approach the glazing seriously. Guys, we just visited Alexandra's project. She's a really great architect. Order your houses from her. For glazing, you can order from us. If you have any questions, you can always find my contact information in the description. Feel free to reach out. Always responsive. I will always help. Don't forget to support us. Subscribe to the channel, click the bell, like the videos, leave comments. Goodbye everyone. See you at the next project.